the first thing you want to do is get a nice ball of clay, maybe about the size of a large orange or grapefruit, and it's going to be really soft, and you want to wedge it. Wedging takes the air bubbles out of the clay, and will also make sure that the clay is uniform as far as the moisture content goes. So I usually push down with my non-dominant hand and sort of rotate, and you sort of create almost like it looks like a conch shell sort of shape. And you want to do this until you feel pretty confident that you've gotten all the air bubbles out, okay? And that it feels like there's no like hard lumps in it or any really soft spots. Everything should be really nice and uniform. Okay, so you're gonna do this for a little while, 5 minutes or so. Okay, and then you're going to cut it in half. So first I'm going to form this into a sphere, so I can kind of eyeball and make sure that the two halves I get are pretty even. I will take a wire cutting tool, make sure it's clean, okay, and I'm going to just cut this in half. This is also a good time to check to see if the wedging that you did was enough. I did not wedge enough because you can see that there are some little air bubbles, and that's okay because now I'm going to still wedge these some more. Okay, and this is really soft clay. I'm also not doing this on a very sturdy surface, so it's a little bit difficult, but you want to make sure that you're wedging enough to get the air bubbles out. Okay, so I would keep doing that. If you're unsure if you're doing it correctly, you can also sort of slam it to get rid of some of the air bubbles too. But if you're not sure if you're doing it right, cut it in half again and check. Okay, and now that looks pretty good, no air bubbles. However, if I were to just go like this and stick them back together, now I have one big giant air bubble in the middle. So I'm going to need to re-wedge this anyway. Okay, so you're going to get the hang of it. You're going to understand how long you need to do this to get your clay to be air bubble free. Air bubbles are a potter's worst nightmare because your piece that you worked so hard on will explode in the kiln and could possibly damage other people's work in the kiln as well. So I'm just going to squish out some of those air bubbles. All right, and let's pretend I did a really good job on that because I just want to get to the next step. So I'm going to roll this, form this into a perfect little ball. Okay, and I would do the same with this, where I would wedge this one and form it into a ball, but I'm going to save that for later. And now comes time to make your pinch pop. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is make sure that you have a nice, perfect little orange. Okay, you're going to take your thumb, you're going to stick it into the center of that ball of clay. You're not going to go all the way. Okay, you want to leave about a ½ inch on the bottom. Then you are going to start with lobster claw pinches. Okay, I'm using my whole hand. I'm not pinching like this. I'm pinching with my whole hand. Okay, so my thumb will stay in the middle there, and I'm going to pinch and rotate. And I'm actually sort of pinching like this, where I'm pulling the clay down. If I don't do that, I'm going to end up with just like a really big plate. And we don't want a plate, we want a dome, or like a little cup, okay? So I'm going to keep pinching, and I'm not pinching too hard, gently, and I only want to pinch to here, so that there is a gap. Actually, you guys probably can't even see this, can you, as I'm doing this? I'm sorry. Let's see. Hopefully this is working now. All right. So you're going to keep going, keep pinching around. Okay. And you want to make sure that as you pinch, you're pinching the same width every time, so that whatever space is between your thumb and your fingers is about the width of your pinky. Okay? We're going to keep going around and around in a circle until we get the shape that we want. Now, you have to look at the animal, the sketch that you did for your animal. How big is it? How round is it? Do you need a sort of more of a shallow, wider pinch pot, or do you need a taller, skinnier pinch pot? It's totally up to your design. There's no right or wrong answer for that. It depends on the animal you're making or the design you're making. Okay, and when you put them together, there is some room for some manipulation to make sure it's the right shape. So you're going to continue doing that until you get the shape that you want. Okay, so now you can start to see that my opening is getting bigger. Okay, and as I'm working it, I'm feeling to make sure that my walls are even. I don't have any weird thin spots. I'm not pinching too hard, and I'm going quite slowly. This clay is in the plastic stage. It's very soft, it's very malleable. Okay, so you want to be sort of gentle with your clay. You don't want to squish too hard, you don't want to pinch it too fast as you're working. Now, if you start to see cracks or anything like that in your clay, it means you're working either too fast or your clay has started to dry out. In that case, you need to maybe spray it with some water or just start over with a fresh piece of clay. If you over wedge the clay, if you spend too much time wedging it, you can dry it out too much as well. Okay, so that's looking okay. It still needs a little bit refining. Okay, but this is a good start. So because it's so soft at this point, what I would do is put this on my work surface, wrap it up with the dry cleaning bag, maybe put a slightly damp sponge in there with it, wrap it up, and let it sort of set up overnight so that the next day when you come in, these would be a little bit firmer. And then we can join the pinch pots, and I will show you how to do that. If these get to the point of being leather hard, where they're still cool or cold to the touch, that means they still have moisture content in there. That is a good place where you can think about carving some design. So if this was your single pinch pot, let's say, maybe you want it to have a flat bottom, so you can tap that onto your work surface and give it a nice flat bottom so that it doesn't wobble if you put things in it. Okay? And you want to make sure it's perfect. So after it sort of sets up overnight, then you could clean up the edges with a damp sponge. You could use a carving tool and create some sort of a design in there. Okay? But the idea is that you would start with one big ball of clay, wedge it, cut it in half, wedge it some more, wedge each section some more, and then form two similarly shaped and sized pinch pots that are of the same moisture content. Wrap them up in your bag, let them set up a little bit overnight, and then the next day when you come in, you can join them. So I will show you that in the next video.